Hi guys, my name is Wildcard. This is round 4 of Super Rugby Australia 2021. The Western Force play the Melbourne Rebels at home in Perth. The Melbourne Rebels finally able to squeak out a close game win over the Western Force after losing back-to-back games against the Queensland Reds and the ACT Brumbies. Now this game at times is a little bit frustrating to watch, for my opinion. There were a lot of just small mistakes, and as a result of these mistakes, both teams have resorted to a very conservative play style. A lot of just forwards running, crashing the ball, just very basic gameplay and tight gameplay. The wingers weren't getting to see too much of the ball. Matt Tomorrow, I think, had a pretty ordinary game for the Melbourne Rebels. He wasn't really directing much of a play throughout the whole game. He didn't get any of the conversions or the penalty kicks for the game. So overall, the Melbourne Rebels were able to squeeze out a win against the Western Force. There was a lot of drama in the game, and let's have a breakdown on what happened. So the game started. The Rebels were just pounding on the Western Force inside the Western Force half. There was a lot of very close moments for the Rebels right from the get-go, putting a lot of pressure on the Western Force. But again and again and again, the Western Force were able to defuse the situation with a turnover or a little penalty or knock-on and whatnot. We're able to just keeping the ball away from scoring. There was a few times where there was some weird stuff happened. There was one point where the Rebels had a guy kind of trying to going for a try, and he was kind of like tackled right on the try line. And then as he was falling down, he kind of like, as he fell to the ground, the ball bounced off his arms, and it was taken. There should have been a knock on, but the referee didn't call a knock on for some reason. And the Western Force defender kind of like was standing inside the try zone, by the way, reached out, picked up the ball that was knocked on, and then kind of like fell down to the ground and grounded the ball inside the end zone area. And the ruling was, according to the referee, that the Western Force player has taken the ball back in goal and grounded the ball, despite the fact that the ball was kind of knocked on by the Rebels player, and despite the fact that the Western Force player was already standing inside the end zone when he picked up the ball. So it was kind of weird call. The Rebels had another chance to crack at scoring a try there, but it didn't really score. Didn't result in any points for the Rebels at that point. But eventually, around the 27th minute, the Rebels were able to apply constant pressure and had this is pretty much the first time where they kind of just kept crash the ball a few times with the forwards, and then the ball went out to Tamura, and Tamura just hands went out through the backs to the winger, and there was no one in front of him. Lockie Anderson just came in from the side, ran through the sideline, and scored the try right at the edge of the field. Manny Tamura got the ball, went for the conversion, and just completely like skewed the ball and just completely missed the conversion. And Western Force kind of also had an opportunity to score a penalty, and it was like about around 40 meters out, and the kicker just completely missed. I think it's McIntyre, number 10, just completely missed the kick for their opportunity to score points in the first half. The first half kind of just stale a little bit. The Rebels were definitely in front, but they were playing super safe style of rugby. At halftime, there were some stats that show that both teams only had about 35, 38 run meters. I mean, for a whole team, a 35 run meters, it shows you like how little distance was gained from running. Just, nobody was willing to take any risk because of fear of making mistakes. So there was almost just people just very basic crash ball runs, and no one was going anywhere for most of the match, for most of the first half. And second half started, the Western Force came out of the dressing room 0-5 down, and they definitely look like they're lifting the tempo of the game and try to, make a comeback against the Rebels. So it was the Rebels that first kind of had an opportunity at a halfway mark. And this is literally about one of the few times where the Rebels tried to make a play and try to make a move with the back line. And it just worked out perfectly right away. So the Rebels had a line out around just past the halfway mark into the Western Force territory. Line out came in, ball went down to Powell, the halfback, and then he passed the ball to Tamura. I think there might be and then the Tamura kind of just did a short pass to draw his defender, did a short pass to not Halapeti, to Maria Corabetti. So he did a short pass to Corabetti. Corabetti ran this great inside line, just straight through the center, broke the defense. And as he was running down the middle of the field, the fullback came in to cover Corabetti. He kind of just offloaded to the blind side, back to the halfback, Joe Powell, who just had open space in front of him, straight down the sideline, and scored in the corner for the Melbourne Rebels. And again, Matt Tamura missed the conversion. The score at this point is 10-0 for the Melbourne Rebels at around 60 minutes into the game, 62 minutes into the game. And at this point, the Western Force started bringing on their reserves, including, I think, Ian Pryor, who was supposed to be the captain, but he's been subbed on as the finisher for this game, and he was also subbed on as a finisher for the Waratahs game last week. But Ian Pryor got on, started directing traffic a little bit better. The whole attacking, the whole Melbourne Western Force attack just looked a lot smoother as soon as Ian Pryor was on the field. He was directing traffic left and right. And sure enough, very soon as Pryor got onto the field, there was the number 10, McIntyre, ran a really good line after receiving the ball, just, off the racks. He made a little break. And then as he was getting tackled by the sweeping defense, he offloaded the ball to Carney, I think. And then Carney ran into the next defender, did another offload to one of the centers, and then the center ran into another defender and did another offload. So there was two more players outside of him, but they were running out of space. There was another center outside of him, and then there was the hooker was outside of him. So he did another offload, and then instead of going to the center, who was faster down the wing, he went to the hooker, and the hooker was just kind of like, oh no, I shouldn't have got the ball, but he ran down the sideline anyway. It was kind of funny. You can sort of tell he was a little bit panicky. He ran down to the sideline, and as the fullback came up to kind of tackle him and try to push him out, he threw the ball back into the field. And Matt Tamura was there to receive the ball actually, but he kind of didn't expect it or something, but he kind of just coughed it up. He bounced off Matt Tamura's hands. In a weird way, the ball ended up in the center that was cut out. Who his name is Jack McGregor. So Jack McGregor got the ball from Tamura, who failed to catch the ball, who just kind of bounced off his hands. And then Jack McGregor just ran down. He was too big, too strong. Scores the try. The first try for the Western Force, right on the sideline. And at this point, Ian Pryor is on the field, so he's taking over the kicking duties. Took the ball straight from the sideline, slots the only kick off the game, 2 points from the sideline, 7-10. At this point, the Western Force is looking like they're going to build some momentum, and then it's looking like it's going to be a close game for the Western Force. And then, as soon as this try was scored, things just went downhill. This is where everything starts to get really weird and meme worthy. This is where all the memes starts happening. So the Western Force kind of recovered the ball from the kickoff, and then there was a Rebels player number 5, Ross Halapeti, just went in for a tackle and just a massive high shot straight onto the head of the Western Force player. It looked pretty bad. It looked like a massive whiplash on the Western Force player. I'm surprised that his neck was okay. It looked pretty bad. Huge whiplash. massive shoulder charge on the Western Force player. Of course, red card, off you go. And the joke was, from the commentators, that Ross Halapeti is upset that he got a red card. As he walked off the field, he tripped over the wires on the, or like he intentionally pulled the wires off the lights, and one set of lights on the one side of the field just went off. Like these big, these lights were on like these big poles, and this, huge section of lights kind of like sits on these like massive poles, and one of the poles just went off. On like one side of the field just went off. So on TV, it didn't look like there was any issue. It just like suddenly the game just stopped. Suddenly like the game just stopped. Everyone's just like sitting around, and the commentators like the lights went off. But on TV, it looked fine. Like it was plenty of lights. Like the picture was pretty clear from people watching at home. Like it didn't even look like there was an issue until the referees, until the commentator mentioned the lights went off, and this is where all the memes starts happening. There was a lot of like talks and waiting around to get the lights back on, to try to reset it, and then all the fans in attendance started to get a bit restless, started getting a bit annoyed by the delays. I mean, like at this point, the lights have been off like a few minutes, and players were getting like massages and stuff in the middle of the field, and it was just getting like a bit wonky. And then all the fans took out their phones and tried to help out with the lighting with their phones. The fans, man, they're just the greatest people ever, right? Like the rugby fans in Perth, they're the absolute greatest. So started to try to help out with lighting with their phones, and then it just literally looked like a rock concert with everyone's phone waving their phone light around, and then there was like a rock music playing in the background. And a guy in the audience started playing air drums, right? And this was not showing on like the live broadcast, but on the live stadium feed, there was a guy playing air drums in the audience. So the live feed in the stadium just cut to the one guy doing the air drums to the beat of the rock song that's playing on in the background of the stadium. And then when he finished, like everybody was just like applauded for this guy. For playing the air drums. It was actually like, it was just brilliant. Like, oh god, like the fans in Perth, you guys are the best. Okay, that was quite entertaining to see that. And then the thing got even weirder at this point. There was talks to cancel the game, despite the fact that on TV it looks perfectly fine. Like everything was perfectly visible. They were talking about canceling the game because there is insufficient lights. So the referee went to the sideline, told this woman to call someone to check with the rulings of what to do in a situation like this. And then another woman came out with the rule book, with the actual rule book for the competition. And she was flipping through the pages to try to figure out what exactly happens at this point. Like, if the game gets cancelled, does the score count? The commentators were saying the score should stand as it is. If the game gets called, and they were talking about how long can they actually wait for the lights to be fixed, what is the acceptable like waiting period. I mean, as a Western Force fan, you will be furious. I thought there would be a riot if they called off the game at this point. When the Rebels have a red card, and the Western Force are clearly like on the roll to about to score, putting pressure, is about to score, and it's 10 minutes left. It's very down to the wire. The Western Force can easily win this game at this point. If they call off the game now and just hand the win to the Rebels, I think, the referee's not going to make it out of Perth alive, right? And so there was a lady flipping through pages on the sideline, and the commentators were talking about calling the game. And as the viewers at home were looking at this going, there's plenty of light. You can see everything perfectly fine. You wouldn't even notice there was an issue with the light unless the commentators were talking about it. It looked absolutely fine. And then the referee eventually just goes, all right, I had enough of this. Everyone get together. We're going to finish the game. Just go. We're just going to play the game. To be honest, there was the only issue from like viewing the game. I don't know what it was like on the field. I'm guessing it could be like really dark for the players or something, because obviously the camera could make things look much brighter than the actual like situation. But on TV, there was the only issue that we can see from TV at home is the fact that lights were only coming from one direction. So there was like a massive shadow cast over over the players. So there's just shadows. Like every player had like a massive shadow in front of them. So that's probably the only thing that could like affect the game. Like, you know, you might not be able to see the ball properly if you know someone was carrying the ball in like if the ball was in shadow, for instance. But I mean, like, it's not really like that big of an issue. Like, honestly, there was. Anyway, the referee, when I had enough of this, no one's been able to find an answer for me. We've been here for like 10 minutes. Let's go, play on, game on. And there was a scrum about 5 minutes out for the Western Force. And a few phases later, another full-on penalty for the Western Force. And at this point, I mean, Western Force could have taken the 3 and just leveled. There was about 4 minutes left. They could have taken the 3 and had a leveled the score because it was a really easy kick. But the Western Force decided, you know, there was one man in the bin for the Rebels. We have the momentum. We're inside the Rebels half. Let's play on. And just like the rest of the game, the Western Force played so safe. Just, they had the forwards run the ball again and again and again and again. There was, the back line was just standing there. And they just had the forwards run. And then, you know, more forwards run. They just get closer and closer to the try line, but just never able to actually get over the line. Eventually, one of the forwards got stripped, and it was turnover for the Rebels. And the commentators were saying that's probably a mad game saver for the Rebels, and that was true. The Rebels got the ball back, kicked the ball out, and there was, I mean, not completely off the hook. The Western Force still has about 2 to 3 minutes left of the game at this point, and they had a 22-meter line out inside the Rebel half. So they're still in a really good attacking position, and the Western Force coughs up the line out, and Rebels got the ball back, ran a few phases. I think there might have been a scrum in there. I can't remember exactly what happened, but Rebels got the ball back and ran the clock down, kicked the ball out, and that's the win for the Rebels. So overall, both teams played really hard in their defense, but there was just a really lack of like ideas, almost look like at times. Both teams just had no idea what they wanted to do with their back line, and they just resorted to like running the ball with the forwards. And it was, I mean, I felt like Western Force should have taken more risk. Especially when we had a full-on penalty, right? Should have tried to try to make a move with the back line. You know, do a switch in the back line. You know, do a cutout pass in the back line or something, or do a crossfield kick. You know, little grabber into the grabber kicks or something. Anything. They could have done something when they had a full-on penalty right out in front of Melbourne Force half. Right out in front of Melbourne Force try line instead of just kept running with the forwards. Right, so that was a little bit disappointing. I think the Western Force could have done a lot better there, and I think it's a chance that the Western Force is going to look back and should have taken a little bit more risk in their play. Anyway, that is the match review, guys, and hopefully you enjoy that. I'll see you guys in the next game.